The film opens in Moscow, where we see Dominika Egorova, a celebrated ballerina from the Bolshoi Theater, preparing herself by listening to music and using visualization to rehearse her performance. She lives with her ailing mother, Nina Egorova, who depends on her, both emotionally and financially. Meanwhile, in the United States, we meet Nate Nash, a CIA operative stationed in Moscow. He receives an encrypted message which was sent from a high-ranking Russian official, codenamed Marble, who was secretly working for the U.S. government. The message asked him to meet at a certain place to collect some information. As instructed, he meets with Marble in a secluded area and successfully receives some vital information about the Russian government. But just before they could depart, some Russian cops suspect that they were dealing in illegal substances and hence turn on their sirens. Fearing that Marble may get caught, Nate attempts to protect him by firing some gunshots, thereby attracting attention towards himself. This leads to a chase, and Nate escapes being caught by the skin of teeth and manages to reach the American embassy. Marble also manages to escape unharmed. Nate gets transported to Washington under diplomatic passport, but now the Russians are aware of a mole being present in their country. In order to find out the mole, Zakharov, the director of the SVR, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, calls for Ivan Igorov. Ivan is Dominika's uncle and also the deputy director of the SVR. They hold a meeting along with General Vladimir Korchnoi and try to review the footage of the incident, but are unable to recognize the mole due to the blurred footage. The scene shifts to Dominika, who meets with her uncle Ivan, and he introduces her to Dmitry Ustinov, a Russian politician who also enjoys her ballet. She begins her performance with grace, along with her partner Konstantin. But just after a few moments, Konstantin loses his rhythm and lands on her leg, breaking it instantly. She passes out on the spot and is rushed to the hospital. She undergoes surgery and upon waking up, breaks down after seeing the condition of her leg. After a few days, she gets a surprise visit from Ivan, and we get to know that she is running out of money and soon will not be able to afford her mother's medications and house rent. He offers to help her, but in return, she will have to complete a secret mission for him. Post saying this, he hands her an envelope and asks her to go through it. Inside it, she finds some pictures of Konstantin with his girlfriend Sonia and a voice recording, which proves their conspiracy to break her leg on purpose. This was done to replace Dominika's spot, so that Sonia also gets the chance to perform. Hearing this, she is enraged and makes up her mind to get her revenge. The scene shifts to the Bolshoi Theater, where Konstantin and Sonia were rehearsing. Post their practice, they went to the women's restroom and were spending quality time with each other. This is when Dominika secretly went inside the room and ambushed them while they were making love. She attacks them with her cane and breaks Sonia's jaw and injures Konstantin. Next day, to make both ends meet, she meets with Ivan and requests him for financial help. Ivan agrees to help her, but in the condition that she meets with Dmitry Ustinov and establish connection with him. Ivan needed some vital information from Dmitry's phone and hence was searching for a woman who could seduce her way into his room. Although initially hesitant, she agrees to the proposal for her mother's sake. Ivan makes all the necessary arrangements for her, and that night, she meets with Dmitry at a hotel. He is instantly charmed by her beauty and, as expected, approached her for small talk. Using her charm and communication skills, she manages to convince him that she is special and her desire to lead life in her own way sets her apart from the rest. Impressed by her aura, he invites her to spend time with him, and Dominika agrees without hesitation. She sets her eyes on his phone and tries to find a way to replace it with a dummy one. But before she could do so, Dmitry asks her to open her dress. Taken aback by his sudden command, she hesitates to do so, but after some insistence, she does as told. He tries to force himself on her, and although she tries to resist, she is no match for his strength. Just when all hope seems lost, a man wearing a helmet enters the room through the window and suffocates him with a metal wire. He proceeds to end Dmitry's life on the spot, and Dominika is left utterly shocked after witnessing this. He escorts her away from the hotel, and they reach the SVR hideout where we are shown that the man behind the helmet is Matorin, an assassin and a torture expert who works under the command of SVR. Her uncle Ivan meets with her and gives her two options. Either she can choose to die, as she is now the witness of the murder of a high-ranking politician, or be an SVR spy. As expected, she chooses to be a spy, and Ivan arranges her to go to horse school where they train young people to be spies. More precisely, they are called sparrows who can infiltrate anywhere and can manipulate anyone using seduction. There is a saying in that school that human beings are pieces of flesh. If you can be the missing piece, then they will give you anything you want. Dominika gets assigned the alias Katerina, and her journey in the world of spies begins. She meets with her instructor, the matron, who is a strict and intelligent woman, capable enough to train future spies for Russia. While in school, she is introduced to the ways of the spies and the techniques that they use to seduce their targets to retrieve information. Nate, on the other hand, gets assigned to the embassy of Budapest so that he can recontact Marble and re-establish connection with him. Zakharov, Ivan, and Korchnoi get the news of his arrival in Budapest, and they are smart enough to understand his motives. To retrieve information about the mole, Ivan proposes to Zakharov that Nate is efficient but is also emotional, and hence he had blown his cover while trying to protect Marble in the past. This shows that he is emotionally vulnerable. To exploit this weakness, the three of them decide to appoint Dominika to establish relationship with Nate and get the identity of the mole from him. Ivan gives Dominika the offer to meet and exploit Nate, and as expected, she accepts his proposal. Thus, her journey to Budapest begins. Ivan had already made the necessary arrangements for her to stay in a hotel, along with another sparrow named Marta. The two women introduce themselves, and they decide not to interfere in each other's matters. Soon, she meets with her new boss, the station chief, Maxim Volantov. He is the one who will assess the progress of Dominika and convey it to the SVR. To get close to Nate, she enrolls in the swimming classes, but instead of her alias, uses her real name while filling up the entry form. As expected, Nate notices her and initiates small talk. He asks her out, but Dominika plays hard to get and tries to assess Nate's personality. Next day, while entering the pool, she notices that Nate is missing, but when she finishes her class, the staff at the pool finds out that Dominika's identity card is missing. This leads us to believe that Nate is behind this, and sure enough, we see him at the CIA headquarters. Here he discloses to his superiors that Dominika is Ivan's niece, and she is here to spy on him. He adds that as per his judgment, the CIA can recruit her to be their spy. Although initially hesitant, his boss, Trish Forsyth, allows him to pursue her. To get closer to Nate, Dominika approaches Maxim and requests her to arrange a spot for her at the Budapest embassy meeting, knowing fully well that Nate will be there. Maxim agrees, but adds that his favors come with a price, and this makes us understand that he too wants to get intimate with her. She attends the meeting, and here, we are introduced to the U.S. Senator's Chief of Staff, Stephanie Boucher. We see Marta having a conversation with her, and we understand that Marta has managed to set up a secret connection with her. Nate approaches Dominika again, and this time, he reveals to her that he is aware of her past as a ballet dancer. He adds that he is surprised at the fact that her own uncle sent her to the horse school where sparrows are trained. Although shocked, she maintains her composure, and they decide to meet at a restaurant the next day for dinner. Post reaching her apartment, she infiltrates Marta's room and tries to find more clues about her mission. She manages to locate a hidden envelope which contained pictures of Marta and Stephanie drinking together. She also finds Marta's diary, using which she learns about Project Swan, as per which Stephanie will be selling secret U.S. military data to Marta at a price of $250,000. She also finds a note, which states that they are supposed to meet in London after a week. But before she could find more clues, Marta returns to the apartment, and Dominika manages to return to her room in the nick of time. The unsuspecting Marta greets her and hands her a copy of a report that was sent by Maxim to Moscow about Dominika's progress. The report expressed Dominika's failure in obtaining the mole's information. Hearing this, she follows him to a strip club. There, she provokes him by making fun of his small cucumber, and this makes him hit her in front of everyone present there. Slowly but firmly, she informs him that the cameras in the room have captured his act of violence, and unless he writes a positive report about her, she will file a complaint which will remove him from his post. The scene cuts to Nate, who awaits Dominika's arrival at the restaurant, but even after hours have passed, she does not arrive. Understanding that he has been ghosted, he starts walking back to his apartment, and this is when she follows him. Upon entering his room, she inquires about the reason which made him blow his cover during his meeting with the mole. He admits that he did it to protect the identity of the man who is risking his life to help the CIA. Hearing this, she understands that she can trust him and hence moves a few steps closer to him. She initiates intimacy and starts kissing him, but he pulls back and asks her to leave, which tells her that he is yet to trust her. Back at her apartment, Ivan visits her and asks about her progress. She admits that she has established contact with him but needs more time. Ivan tries to recall her back to Russia, thinking that she is not good enough for the job. But this is where she discloses that she and Marta have been working together in a project named Swan. They have managed to make a deal with U.S. Senator's Chief of Staff, Stephanie Boucher. She adds that Stephanie will be handing them classified U.S. military data, but only in return for $250,000. This makes him reconsider his decision, and he allows her more time and also assures her about arranging the funds. But as soon as he leaves, Marta confronts her with a gun and threatens to eliminate her in that very room. To save herself, Dominika informs her that Ivan will be arranging the money. But this, too, is not enough, and hence she discloses to her that Ivan was the one who killed the high-ranking politician, Dmitry. Next, we see Dominika visiting a bank to open an account, and the reason for her actions will be clear to us at the end of the video. That day, after returning to her room, she finds Marta's door open. Suspecting something to be wrong, she calls out for her, but after getting no response, enters the room. To our shock, she discovers her lifeless body lying in a pool of blood. Before she could figure anything out, Madoran grabs her hair from behind and makes her watch her roommate's body up close. He threatens her that if she discloses one more secret about Ivan, she will also share Marta's fate. Nate, on the other hand, discovers that Dominika is a Sparrow, but still believes that she could be of help to him. Understanding that staying alone would not be safe for her, Dominika goes to Nate's place and confesses about everything. Nate asks her to work for the CIA, and she agrees. To make sure that she won't betray them, Trish and a CIA officer named Marty make her go through a polygraph test. Post clearing her test, she informs them that Stephanie Boucher, the chief of staff of the U.S. Senator, has been compromised. They agree to give her the money to meet with Stephanie and get the U.S. military information from her. To bring their plan to fruition, they book a room in a hotel in London in advance and also provide it with blank discs. Maxim also arrives at the hotel, and Dominika asks him to wait at the designated room. Stephanie arrives soon, and Dominika introduces herself to her and also shows her the pictures of Marta's dead body. She agrees to make the deal, and hence Dominika hands her the cash in exchange for the discs. But in the pretext of checking the discs, she swaps them with fake ones and keeps the real ones under a table. Nate and Trish keep an eye on the entire transaction through a CCTV camera. Having finished the transaction, Maxim and Dominika depart, followed by Stephanie. But while exiting the hotel, she sees several men keeping an eye on her. Understanding that she is being followed, she dumps the bag of money in a nearby dustbin and tries to flee the spot, but CIA officials surround her from all directions. This is when she gets run over by a truck, and this is witnessed by a Russian agent posted in the same hotel. This news reaches Ivan, who orders Maxim to bring Dominika back to Russia. Nate tries to follow their car to the airport, but she signals him not to interfere. Upon reaching Moscow, she is interrogated and asked if she had sold Stephanie to the Americans. She denies the accusations, but is tortured until she breaks down. Post this, Ivan confronts her and questions her actions. She informs him that she sold Stephanie to earn the Americans' trust. Now that even the Russians have tortured her, CIA will surely believe in her, and hence she will be able to retrieve the identity of the mole from Nate. Convinced by her words, Ivan decides to send her back to Budapest. But before going there, she visits Ivan's apartment and secretly keeps a glass in his table which she had obtained from Nate's room. Post returning to Budapest, she meets with Nate and he is relieved to see her. But at night, she finds out that Madoran has infiltrated their apartment and has started torturing Nate. Understanding the gravity of the situation, she plays along and interrogates him to know the identity of the mole. Nate keeps silent, and seeing this, Madoran peels off his flesh in front of her eyes. Although screaming in pain, Nate does not give up the information. To earn Madoran's trust, she too starts torturing Nate, and this puts Nate in a state of shock. Seeing this, Madoran lowers his guard for a moment, and taking advantage of this, she hits him hard on the face. Wasting no time, she frees Nate, and both of them fight against Madoran. But he proves to be a tough opponent and manages to give them some deep wounds. Putting her life on the line, Dominika uses all her strength and stabs him in the neck, ending his life instantly. Post that, she calls the American embassy and they get admitted in a hospital. There, she is met by General Korchnoi, and he confesses to her that he is the mole. He asks her to reveal his identity to the Russians so that they replace him with her, and she can continue his path and be a mole. The scene shifts to Director Zakharov's office, where we see Dominika informing him about the identity of the mole. The SVR and CIA decide to exchange their prisoners. In a shocking twist of events, we see that instead of revealing the real mole, she had set up her uncle Ivan and lied about him being the mole. The Russians also searched his apartment and found a glass with Nate's DNA on it. They also found out about Ivan's bank account where the Americans had deposited $250,000. In a flashback, we are shown that Dominika had previously opened an account in her uncle's name and asked Nate to deposit money into that account. This proves to be her masterstroke to give Ivan what he truly deserves. Understanding that Dominika had set up Ivan, Nate plays along. Dominika says goodbye to her uncle, and as soon as the prisoners are exchanged, a Russian sniper kills Ivan on that very spot. Dominika is given a high rank in the Russian government and finally gets to have lunch with her mother. This is how the story ends, and both General Korchnoi and Dominika get to live their lives freely. If you like this recap, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please also check out other videos in the channel.